Hello everyone, this is that guy, and today I'm going to be doing a tier list ranking video of the battles within the Three Kingdoms series. So I'm going to start off by saying that this is not a scripted video, so there might be things that I'll be getting wrong about these different battles within the Three Kingdoms. So I'm just doing it based off my memory, so if there is anything that I got wrong, please correct me at the comments. Okay, I will read the comments because I know that definitely something I'm missing or I get wrong lah. Also, this is the first video in the channel, and I'm going to do a little introduction of what content will be coming down the line in this channel. So I'm going to just do whatever content I feel like, but for now I'll be mostly focusing on ACG content and some history content. So if you clicked in wanting more Three Kingdoms contents in the future, then you can look forward to it because I will be doing more Three Kingdoms content in the future, definitely. So without further ado, we shall go back to the video as we start with the first battle of the Three Kingdoms, that is the Yellow Turban Rebellion. So the Yellow Turban Rebellion is basically the rebellion that started off the novel, the first ever conflict that happened within the novel, and it happened during the late Han Dynasty, where peasants started rising up because of the failing government, and then they don't have crops and shit. For me personally, I don't remember that much moments from the Yellow Turban Rebellion itself. It is just basically peasants rise up because of the way of peace created by Zhang Jiao, just fighting against imperial guards, and there are tons of volunteer forces among the ranks of very famous people like Cao Cao, Liu Bei, Sun Jian, etc, etc. And yeah, it is a rebellion that ended, quite quick. But even though I don't think that this battle is anything that much significant, I gotta understand the historical context behind it because the Han government is indeed failing. So I think that this peasant rebellion basically awakened the people into realizing how the court is failing them at this point. Not just that, but it also gave name to multiple people within the volunteer forces that would later use that name for their own gains lah, like Cao Cao, Liu Bei, Sun Jian. Like yeah, these important people will use the Yellow Turban Rebellion to make themselves famous, and then once they got famous, they can just start doing their things as warlords for some, warriors for others. So this is what I think it's important about the Yellow Turban Rebellion, is that it basically kicks things off. And when you think about Diao Chan, because in the novel, Diao Chan is actually one of the victims of the Yellow Turban Rebellion. I think she was cut off, let's just say. She basically got separated from her family, and then Wang Yun took her in and treated her as the stepdaughter lah. Then she will later become important to the story later on. So this is also one thing to note. And yeah, like I said, the Yellow Turban Rebellion is a reminder for the people in the land that the Han government is failing, and then there might be need of change. And I think this is important because if people think that this situation is fine, that there is no need for change, then there will never be change. So the Yellow Turban Rebellion is precisely the change that I think the people of China at that point, they kind of needed it. So that's why I think Yellow Turban Rebellion is important in that sense, because I think it's more of a setup thingy. So that's why in the end, even though I don't think that Yellow Turban Rebellion has much of a note besides Zhang Jiao, him being like a wizard or whatnot, but besides that and the historical context provided behind it, I am willing to give Yellow Turban Rebellion a B tier because I do think that it is important in history, but there is nothing much within this rebellion to note otherwise. So next up, we are going to talk about the very famous Hulao Guan. So the Battle of Hulao Gate isn't actually a real battle, and it is basically an invention of the novel. What this battle originally is in history is that Cao Cao and Yuan Shao basically formed a coalition with tons of warlords around the area, and then decided to overthrow the tyrannical Dong Zhuo. But they just had skirmishes. They didn't have a particular big battle in the story, like the Sisui Gates and then the Hulao Gates. Fun fact, actually, Hulao Guan, the Hulao Gate, isn't actually formed during this time period yet. You know, it's a couple hundred years later that the Hulao Guan is a thing, which is why the author decided that, oh, you know, let's combine all these skirmishes into just one great battle so that, you know, we can make it easier to write. So yeah, one of the breakthrough moments of this battle overall is Guan Yu slaying Hua Xiong with warm wine. So the original story is called 温酒斩华雄, where basically Hua Xiong is like this very mighty general on Dong Zhuo's side, where he came in front of the coalition camp and asked for a duel, and many strong warriors came out to fight him only to get one-shotted. This is basically just to show how strong Hua Xiong actually is as a person. And then Guan Yu decided to be the next volunteer and said, you know, I'll slay him. And here's the thing, he's going to slay him while the wine is still hot. It's like Cao Cao basically is like, okay, you know what, let me serve a wine to this brave warrior who's going out to battle, right? And then Guan Yu's like, nah man, I'm going to come back and drink the wine myself. I don't need to, you know, drink it now. I'll come back safe and sound. And then he came out, one-shotted Hua Xiong, and just came back with the wine still warm. So that's the entire story. But you know, over time I came to find this story total bullshit, because in history, it wasn't Guan Yu who slayed Hua Xiong. It was Sun Jian. Poor Sun Jian. I actually feel bad for this guy, you know, the tons of achievements just got robbed by Guan Yu. Just because, you know, Luo Guanzhong wanted to make Guan Yu such an invincible guy, they gave that feat to Guan Yu instead of Sun Jian. And I think in history as well, Hua Xiong isn't really that strong. He's just a general that Sun Jian had defeated during one of those skirmishes. So that's basically just what happened. One of the other things that is kind of popular is 三战吕布, basically the three heroes fighting Lü Bu. So I don't need to, you know, say who the three heroes are. It's Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei versus Lü Bu. So, you know, Lü Bu, do not pursue Lü Bu. He was a very strong guy. So the fact that these three guys managed to fight him, stalemate, and then just ran off. So it's like just kind of a moment in the Hulao Guan. And there is also Yuan Shu not sending the supplies to Sun Jian because he was jealous. So that was another thing. I don't think it's to show how strong Sun Jian is, that he guarded the jealousy of the other people, but more like to show how petty Yuan Shu is, so that when he goes down later on, there's not much pity on his end. And then there is also Dong Zhuo burning the capital of Xuchang. I think I'm actually not sure where the Hulao Guan. I think it's Xuchang. No, wait, it's not Xuchang. So yeah, I took a look, and yeah, it's not Xuchang. Xuchang is the new capital that Cao Cao gave, but rather it's Luoyang. So basically, yeah, to kind of just show how much of a bitch he is. If I can't have this capital, no one can fucking have it. So it's this kind of bullshit behavior that they're trying to portray him of. And when it comes to history, there's not much stuff in history. Once again, it's a campaign against Dong Zhuo, and the Battle of Hulao Guan isn't real, so it kind of diminishes the importance of history, because you cannot have the Hulao Guan but just have, you know, the random small skirmishes against Dong Zhuo, but it will all lead to him just leaving Luoyang to Chang'an as the new capital. So yeah, this battle historical wise isn't really that important, let's just say. But in the moments, I think the moments are pretty great, even though I kinda hate Guan Yu, but you're not gonna lie that him slaying Hua Xiong like that is pretty cool, even though that is not his skill lah. And the three heroes, you know, fighting Lü Bu, I also think, you know, as I first watch it, I think that it's pretty cool. And this is basically also the mission in Dynasty Warriors, where the whole do not pursue Lü Bu thing come along. But yeah, once again, historical wise, there's not much things that, you know, I can have of note here. And I also think that the part of Dong Zhuo that makes it interesting for me is basically the drama caused by Diao Can. I think, you know, the internal drama is much more fun, more interesting, and enjoyable to just watch compared to, you know, the actual fights itself. But all that said, I'm willing to give Hulao Gate an A, because I really do think this is a really good battle. You know, it sets up a lot of things for future, and it also just builds up a lot of characters and whatnot. So yeah, that is basically the ranking I'm giving it. So next up we have, I will call it the Battle of Shu Province, or in the Wikipedia case, it is called Cao Cao's invasion of Shu Province lah. So basically what this is that Cao Cao's father, Cao Song I think, he died at the Shu Province, governed under Tao Qian. His death is kinda sketchy, let's just say, and we don't actually know who killed him, I think. But Cao Cao is willing to pin the blame of his father onto Tao Qian. So there is basically two ways that you can look on this, because at that point in time, Cao Cao also wanted to expand his territory. So his father's death at Shu province is kind of just a reason being given to him to attack Shu province literally. So you can say that this is kind of a ploy that he had. He just so happened to made it up just for the sake of it. Or you can say that he's actually angry that his father got killed, so kinda explains the carnage that Cao Cao caused while coming here, because I think he killed quite a lot precisely because of his anger. Yeah, I think he killed quite a lot of people during this invasion because he is really fucking angry. Or that, or you know, it can just be a rules that he cooked up to make him look angry like that. But besides that, the reason why I talk about the Battle of Shu Province is because it is also the part where, you know, Cao Cao and Liu Bei actually first met as enemies. So Liu Bei, along with his brothers, are at the care of Gong Sun Zhan, and you know, an old friend of his that is also at the coalition. And you know, Tao Qian asked for help, and Liu Bei responded and came to us up. So it is basically how Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei managed to, you know, make a name for themselves by defending the Shu province from falling in Cao Cao's hands. Cao Cao is just coming here all big army like, and then you just have Liu Bei and his, you know, two brothers along with, you know, minimum troops defending them. It's pretty something, let's just say. But at the same time, there's also the thing with Lü Bu. Lü Bu kind of helped out in this situation in the sense that since Cao Cao is out and away attacking Shu province, Lü Bu kind of used this opportunity to attack Yan province, I think. I'm not that sure, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the Yan province. And Cao Cao is forced to abandon this invasion to go back and save his own territory. So that's kind of helped Liu Bei to like kind of defend him, because any longer I think Liu Bei wouldn't have, you know, defended it that long if not of Lü Bu kind of helping out kinda in the middle. And then later Tao Qian also, you know, gave him the territory after he died, you know, as a thanks, because he thinks that he doesn't beat the people well enough, and then needs someone like Liu Bei who is, you know, so benevolent and all that shit. So yeah, so that's why he gave it to him after he died. At first Liu Bei said shit like, yeah, I don't want, you know, this is your own territory, I cannot just take it from you like that. And then, you know, after he died, he still took it, so he kinda didn't amount to shit. But you can say that either Liu Bei is just cunning as fuck, as in like, you know, he's just pretending to be benevolent, but in reality he's kind of just making the shit up to make himself look good, so that he's like, oh man, if you really want me to have it that much, yeah sure man, I guess I'll have it, yeah, that kind of shit. Or if he's actually that dumb. So there are either two ways you can look at it, but I don't think there's much to really look into, because I think this invasion is kind of how they built up Cao Cao as this kind of cruel leader, right? Like how the novel tries to build him up, as he just kills tons of civilians in the name, you know, of his fathers and whatnot, because he's fucking angry and shit, to set up how Liu Bei is so benevolent that people were willing to give him an entire province. This is also the first territory that Liu Bei has ever gained from anyone else ever since the Yellow Turtle Rebellion, because he started off as, you know, someone selling sandals. Yeah, you can also say that, you know, it not only sets up Cao Cao and Liu Bei as a character, but this is also a very important point to Liu Bei, because this is him taking baby steps, so I guess you can call it important in that way. But besides that, when you consider everything else, I'm going to give Cao Cao's invasion of Shu province a C, because there is just set up characters also serve as a good foothold for Liu Bei later down the future, and nothing of note that I can say. It's not like Hulao Guan where there is quite a few things to note that could be cool and whatnot, but not this from what I remember. So yeah, that's basically it for Cao Cao's invasion of Shu province. So next up we have the Battle of Wan Castle, and I think this one is a pretty funny or a sad one depending on how you decide to view things. If you want to look at the novels and how the Dynasty Warriors games they painted this, it's Zhang Xiu and Jia Xu kinda just fucked them over, tricking them into a trap through surrender, and then they're just gonna kill him through this fake surrender. And it's basically a battle to show how strong Dian Wei is, where Dian Wei, as the big mighty warrior that canonically wields a double axe, is cool as fuck, and he, along with Cao Cao, broke through the trap because being the strong general that he is, he's basically alone with Cao Cao on that trap, so he has to save him out of it. So just one guy just rampaging through the entire trap castle. I don't know if it's a castle or camp, but let's just say castle, and he just ran through the entire castle just saving Cao Cao. Of course there is Cao Anming and Cao Ang, which died. Unfortunately, Cao Ang was supposed, I think it's Cao Ang is supposed to be the next heir, the eldest son of Cao Cao, but he died, so that's why Cao Pi managed to came up. But yeah, this is a kind of a sad situation when you think about it, because they got themselves cornered. Dian Wei managed to rampage his way out of it, but in the end still died. Kind of a high point for Dian Wei because he single-handedly has all these feats within the Battle of Wan Castle, and then he just died because of it. Like, he's just fighting through the shit along with Cao Cao. So it's kind of sad, you can say, to see him just fight for the sake of Cao Cao, to see his loyalty, his courageous, his strength and whatnot. But I want you to listen from the side of history, because not many people actually know the actual reason why they decided to fake surrender Cao Cao. Because instead of them originally planning a fixed surrender to kind of get Cao Cao into a trap and then kill him, in reality, they actually did surrender. I'm not gonna lie, they actually did surrender. So why did he decided to go against Cao Cao and lay a trap for him laterwards? Because Cao Cao got horny. Yeah, that's just the main reason why he got himself in this situation. So what happened is that Cao Cao, he came in, he saw Zhang Xiu's uncle's wife. Zhang Xiu's uncle recently died, so his uncle's wife is left a widow, and then Cao Cao got horny basically, and he decided to, fuck the woman. And Cao Cao's reputation, he just likes married women for whatever fucking reason. You can take a look at his concubines and whatnot. All of them are married women, and he just likes to take in married women. It's kind of a well-known fetish that he has. But yeah, he basically fucked the widow, which of course got Zhang Xiu pretty mad, which is why he decided, fuck the surrender. I cannot surrender to a guy who just raped my uncle's wife, my just dead uncle. So he's like, yeah man, I'm gonna lay a trap for him so he can just die. So if you think about it like this, what Dian Wei died for? He died for jack shit. He died because his lord is horny. Yes, sure, he's still brave, courageous, and he in the end still died for his lord, shows his loyalty. But he died because Cao Cao is fucking horny. I cannot, man, because Cao Cao just has like this is a problem with Cao Cao. Like, he totally deserved what happened to him during Wan Castle. He definitely deserved what happened to him at Wan Castle. Dian Wei didn't die because he could be horny. So yeah, when you think about it like this, in the end they still defeated Zhang Xiu, even though Zhang Xiu kind of fucked up Cao Cao so badly that he lost 3 guys, 2 of his relatives, one of them his eldest son, and a mighty warrior, but he still accepted the surrender when he was defeated. So yeah, that's kind of also telling of how Cao Cao is as a character. So that's basically it. But when we think about the Battle of Wan Castle, it is just another character moment. It doesn't have much significance in history besides Cao Cao getting himself more land. I'm not really that big of a fan with Dian Wei, and I still think that he didn't deserve to die here in a lot of ways. So because of how they've written Dian Wei here, I am going to Oh my god, I'm gonna be so cool. I'm gonna give mostly just Dianwei in the Battle of One Castle a B, which I think it's because I don't like Dianwei enough, you know, because in the original series, the original anime that I watched for the Three Kingdoms, he didn't have that much screen time. We just know he exists and he's strong, that's all. I also think that the Battle of One Castle goes on a bit too fast, so there's not much development being made. I appreciate the illustrations they had in Dynasty Warriors, but at the same time, I think, you know, it's kind of, yeah, I don't feel it, let's just say. He's brave, he's courageous and whatnot, but I just don't feel it emotionally on a deeper level, so that's why the Battle of One Castle cannot get any higher than this, basically. So next up, we are going to turn the clock a bit and we are going to talk about Sun Ce's conquest in Jiangdong. So what happened is that Sun Jian died. He got himself killed during the Battle of Xiangyang by Liu Biao's general Wang Zhu. So I will not be covering this battle, so if you guys wanted to see it being covered in the next video, you guys can comment down below and I will also include it in the next video lah. So at that point, Sun Ce is actually only 16, and at that point, Sun Jian under Yuan Shu, because of the Imperial Seal, he wanted to basically take back the troops from Yuan Shu. And you know, after many things, you know, many bullshits that Yuan Shu tries to pull, he managed to get back part of Sun Jian's army, which is like I think 1,000 or something. And then, you know, under the orders of Yuan Shu, he basically went and conquered Jiangdong. So he started out actually working for Yuan Shu. He just started taking parts of Jiangdong bit by bit under Yuan Shu's orders. But every time Yuan Shu promised something of Sun Ce, he just go against his word again and again, to the point where I think, right, he just kind of left him and he conquered the rest of Jiangdong at that point under his name. And to give you an idea, Jiangdong is the southeast of China. He basically claimed the southeast of China by himself with only like 1,000 of Sun Jian's men, and he was 16. He literally conquered the southeast of China when he was 16 with so little troops, man. Like, I don't know, man, it kind of just shows how fucking insane Sun Ce is as a character, which of course gained him the name of the Little Conqueror, which is Xiao Ba Wang. So, little lore for those who don't know why he is called just the Little Conqueror, because this is the name being given to Xiang Yu. So Xiang Yu is one of the guys from the Chu Han contention. He fought against Liu Bang, and Liu Bang versus Xiang Yu, and Liu Bang won. So that's why Liu Bang created the Han Dynasty after that. So you can say that Xiang Yu is kind of the arch nemesis of the Han Dynasty, let's just say, because the Han Dynasty fought against them to win the entire land. And Xiang Yu was a pretty fierce warrior, and he is also being called the Conqueror, the Ba Wang. And Sun Ce was being given the name of Little Conqueror. He's being compared to Xiang Yu of all fucking people. I may talk about Xiang Yu another day, but for now, just so you know, being compared to Xiang Yu by the people around you is kind of insane. It kind of just shows how much work you've done, and he just kind of proved himself there. And just that alone, I'm willing to put Sun Ce's conquest in Jiangdong basically at A, because it is just shit entertaining. Like 16 years old and you did all this. Like the biggest reason why this entire conquest is an A is because of this Sun Ce. He really showed himself there to the point where I gotta give respect to him. You know, his conquest is just so legit. He's just so insane, man. And of course, there's also other people that helped it. You know, the good old Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu helped a lot, and Han Dang, Huang Gai, Chen Pu, Zhou Tai, etc., etc. Just all the generals are helping him. This is kind of just an onslaught. So that's why I'm willing to give it an A, because for me, it is just that great. It's just so exciting to see this Sun Ce doing this all by himself, along with his, you know, modicum of men. He just conquered the entire Southeast Asia. He's conquered the entire Southeast China with his own, man. Holy shit. But yeah, that's my respect for Sun Ce. You know, that's where it comes from, and I still really respect him to this day. So next up, we are of course going to talk about the very famous Battle of Xiapi. So the Battle of Xiapi is where Liu Bu got absolutely decimated. Some background information: Liu Bu got kicked out of his own territory again, and he's now territoryless. And Liu Bei took him in and gave him the Xiapi. And basically, one day when Liu Bei went out to war or some shit, I forgot, and Zhang Fei was the only one taking care of the place, Liu Bu straight up just raided the place and then just took the entirety of Xu province from himself. And then when Liu Bei came back, he just decided, yeah, I'm just gonna, instead of rushing him out, I'm just gonna take him in as one of my subordinates because I can. This is my land now, what the fuck are you gonna do about it? So what he did was that he gave peace of the Xu province back to Liu Bei. And after some shit went on, Liu Bei decided that he is not going to take this any longer, so he joined up forces with Cao Cao, surprisingly, and tried to take Xu province back from him. And what's kind of insane was that Cao Cao basically did this so that he can just be rid of Liu Bu, because he knows exactly what kind of person Liu Bu is, and leaving him around is just going to be trouble for just everyone. So he really just did this just to kill Liu Bu. He didn't even want the land of Xu province, so he just gave it all back to Liu Bei. He just, we chill, I'll help you, I just wanted to defeat Liu Bu. Whether or not I get your land is, none of my concern. So that's why they joined up, and then they beat Liu Bu back to Xiapi, the capital basically of the province. And yeah, he got himself cornered. So I want to talk about the Dynasty Warriors version of it first, where what happened is that he was making a last stand kind of thing, where he was killing all the enemy generals, the strongest guy in the series. He was just taking out everyone. And then the flood attack happened by Guojia, I think. He just started losing all morale, and then he just started trying his very best. He knows that there is nothing that he can do now, but he's still fighting because that's the only thing that he's good at. But even after all the generals that he defeated after the flood attack, he still lost and got captured and later got executed. So in the way the Dynasty Warriors painted, it kind of painted like an inevitability, in the sense that no matter how strong you are, you cannot rule this land without the brains. The era of brawn is gone. It is gone along with Liu Bu, the strongest general in the entire land. It is gone, and now replacing it is basically the brains. And it kind of shows that by saying that if you actually listen to what Chen Gong had to say to you, this wouldn't have happened. You might have won the entire thing back. So it's kind of a proof that the moment you don't listen to the brains for once and you're just going full brawn, you are just going to die. So in the sense that the Battle of Xiapi is kind of a tragic death for Liu Bu, because at the end of his era, there's nothing his brawn can do anymore. He's just fighting a last stand. Even though he is very strong, there is nothing that he can achieve. It's kind of like this tragic hero, this sad ending, right? But if you look at it through the history, or in the novel's case, it's totally different. So what happened is that he didn't really fight anyone during the Battle of Xiapi, so he basically holed up inside the castle and holding up, laying siege and whatnot. And then Guojia decided a good idea to flood him. And then even after they flooded him for months, and I'm not joking, for months, he's still inside. He's just like thinking, oh, this will all be fine. He's like that guy, he's in a house of fire, and then he's like, yeah, it's fine. So he just literally just went up soaking. There is no last stand thingy that they did in Dynasty Warriors. He's just up there sleeping and whatnot. It has gone to the point where the generals under Liu Bu cannot fucking stand him anymore. They just decided to just tie him up in his sleep and then just throw him to Cao Cao immediately. So it's like they didn't even try anymore. They're like, yeah, whatever, we surrender. We do not want to follow Liu Bu anymore, man. Where you give up, man. Like, Liu Bu didn't even put up a fight. He just got himself tied. I think he got himself tied to a pole on the wall. It's like the pole above the bridge, and then they just open the castle gates to let them in as they surrender. And when I first watch it, I'm like, Liu Bu, you are such a fucking dumbass. Like, in actuality, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I don't know, man. I thought you were the strongest warrior in the world, man. Why did you just let them flood you and then you proceed to do absolutely nothing? I'm just It's no wonder that in the end, Chen Gong decided to just walk to the execution grounds by himself. He's like, man, I really served the wrong guy. The feat is all on me. I'm not going to surrender. It's my fault that I follow such a dumbass. And he just straight up walked to the execution grounds and then just get executed. And I'm like, oh my god, man. So this is just, yeah, this is just a fucking shit show, let's just say. But the themes that they're trying to portray in this battle is still the same. I think it still works in the novels, where the age of the brawn is over. It is over when the strongest warrior in the land has died. So after this, there is no longer just the bronze, but there's also the brains as well, because the brains are more important than the bronze. So it still got its message carried over, and because of that, I am pretty fine with this version as well. But even so, I still kind of like Reboot for reasons that I'll talk about in another video. But yeah, with that in mind, with the themes that it's going for, even though this battle isn't important historically or whatnot, it's just a conflict that just happened. It didn't shape much of anything, but the themes that the novel gave it, and then how, you know, Dynasty Warriors, they portray it, I am willing to give this an S tier. Yes, I said it. This is fucking great. I love the Battle of Siapi. It just gets me. Yeah, it just gets me a bit emotional sometimes seeing people go out like that, because I do actually like the guy.
Hello, this is Editor Me, and you know who I also like? Xiahou Dun, which just so happens that the reason why he got one eye was because of the Battle of Siapi, where one of the archers shot his eye at the Battle of Siapi, and he basically plucked out the arrow from his eye and then proceed to eat his own eye to show his filial piety. So if anyone doesn't know what filial piety is, it is basically a respect for your parents that is prevalent in Chinese tradition. And to Xiahou Dun, the eye was being gifted to him by his parents as they born him with the eye. So he is going to eat the eye because that is a part of him that was being gifted by his parents, and he is not letting it go to waste like that. So I'm just putting this trivia here that I forgot to mention while I was talking about the Battle of Siapi, to further reinforce my point of why I put the Battle of Siapi as an S tier. So yeah, carry on.
So to basically cap off the part 1 of this tier list ranking video, we are going to end it with the big one. That is the Battle of Guandu. Now, the Battle of Guandu, I'm going to talk about historically why it's so important, because at that point in time, in the late Eastern Han Dynasty, the big 4 warlords that had the most fame is Yuan Shao, Yuan Shu, Liu Biao, and Sun Jian. It's these 4. So to Cao Cao's case, Cao Cao is not actually popular. He wasn't that famous enough to be one of the big names, right? So you can say that the Battle of Guandu is very important, because at this point in time, Cao Cao is already starting to make a name for himself. If he managed to win against Yuan Shao during the Battle of Guandu, he is basically securing himself in the spot as a big name. Not just that, he also basically managed to conquer the northeast of China if he actually succeeds at defeating Yuan Shao at the Battle of Guandu. So the Battle of Guandu has quite a few things that we can touch upon. So when it comes to character moments, we cannot not talk about Guan Yu slaying Yan Liang and Wen Cao. So Guan Yu basically became like a guest general for Cao Cao, where after Cao Cao, he took over Xu province from Liu Bei. Liu Bei basically escaped and came under the refugee of Liu Biao. But at that point, Guan Yu had accidentally got separated from his brothers, so he got captured by Cao Cao, and Cao Cao, admiring him, decided that, you know, he's going to let him serve him. And so that's why Guan Yu is grateful that, you know, Cao Cao spared him, and he's going to work for him for the time being, because he still has Liu Bei's 2 wives, because left behind with him are Liu Bei's 2 wives, and he has to take care of them, so he cannot risk to like just die. He must be alive so that he can take Liu Bei's wives back to him, if he does find them, that is. So he became a guest warrior, and first up, he's managed to slay just 2 generals. So this one isn't actually made up. This is actually something that Guan Yu did do in the Battle of Guandu, and Wen Cao and Yan Liang are indeed very strong generals. So basically, Cao Cao had heeded Xu Niu's advice to feign an attack at Yanjing. So what happened is that Yuan Shao took a bait and practically left Yan Liang at Baima basically unguarded. So with Yan Liang being unguarded, Guan Yu basically rushed in to just kill him. So he killed him, but in the end they decided to, also abandon Baima to retreat to a more strategic position. And Wen Chou heard of this, and then he quickly tried and came over, and that is where Zhang Liao and Xu Huang tried to block him. They tried to hold him off, and then Guan Yu basically came in and took the kill. So it is not on the same level as epicness as the novels, but it is indeed something that did happen along with the help of Zhang Liao and Xu Huang. And another main thing is Xu You. So Xu You is a defector from Yuan Shao's side because he doesn't think that he's being valued enough. So he gave the information to Cao Cao where the supply routes of Yuan Shao are basically at Wu Cao, and Cao Cao decided to, if the information is true, he is going to burn this entire supplies. So when the supplies are burned, Cao Cao will basically gain the advantage, and then they can just storm in and start attacking him. And that succeeded, and they managed to take Guandu for themselves. At the same time though, Yuan Shao escaped from Guandu, and then not long after he just died out of illness. And of course his sons started their own political war about who's the new leader, and they just killed each other. Like, they kind of fucked each other up, and then Cao Cao just came in and swooped the whole thing for himself. So that's the story of how he conquered the north. And to say how significant this is, first up, he has gained a lot of good generals from this, of course, with the main one being Zhang He, which will later be one of the 5 elite generals of Wei, one of the Wu Zi Liang Jiang. And when it comes to the territory itself, at this point in time, I think Cao Cao has one of the biggest territories in the land, like along the lines of Sun Ce at Jiangdong, Liu Biao with Jing province, and Liu Zhang at Yi province. So there's basically these 4 big guys, and basically Guandu gave Cao Cao the much needed momentum because Cao Cao was on a streak, which is why after Guandu happened not long later, he immediately started to go after Jing province. So you can say that this is a very big battle of Cao Cao, and not to mention that Cao Cao actually has lesser troops. He is on the disadvantage here, and Cao Cao has won despite of the disadvantages. So this is also one of those, like, the small versus the big, and then the small won. I like these kind of stories, and then Guandu is just one example of that. Yuan Shao basically should have won, but he just sucks ass, so that's why Cao Cao managed to swoop in and save the day. But yeah, after all this, I'm going to give the Battle of Guandu an A, because I really do think there's a lot of things that you can talk about. There's like character moments, big moments, and a lot of relevance to the later plot as well, because this is an important battle that cemented Cao Cao as a formidable force who defeated a large army despite of numbers. And this is basically one of Cao Cao's highest moments, I should say, and I really do think that this thing deserves an A. The only reason I think it didn't deserve an S for me is because I don't feel emotionally connected to it. I don't feel it the same way like I do the Battle of Xiapi, even though it has less historical significance. So yeah, that's why it landed at A, because it lacked precisely that for me. But yeah, this is basically the video for now. So this is just a part 1, and I will do a part 2, 3, maybe 4 sooner or later. So if there is anything I've gotten wrong, if there is anything you don't disagree with the tier list, or you have your own opinions about some of these battles, you can leave it down in the comments. I will read all of them. So thank you all for the support. This is the first video. I hope that it does well. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.